Hey guys, Will Ryan here, coming to you live from the set of 25 The Hard Way Season 2. I just wanted to really quick do a vlog, and this is coming to you on Friday, same day that I'm recording it. But I really wanted to sit down and do this because I had a serious epiphany this morning about Undertaker at WrestleMania, and I really wanted to get on here and discuss it very quickly in short order because I've basically realized that regardless of what side you're on, the debate's over. And I'm going to explain to you why. In case you've been living under a rock or you're not at all a wrestling fan or whatever, back on Sunday at WrestleMania 30, The Undertaker, who was 21-0 at WrestleMania, in 23 years in the business, he hadn't lost a match at WrestleMania. He missed two. And his streak was ended by Brock Lesnar. He lost at WrestleMania for the first time in 24 years in the business, the first time in 22 WrestleManias. And this immediately stormed the internet. Online newspapers were reporting this all over the world, weighing in on it. Wrestling websites have been giving their opinions on whether or not it was the right thing to do. And arguments, heated, angry, emotional arguments have been raging all week. And frankly, almost right away, by Monday afternoon, I had decided that I thought Brock Lesnar beating the streak was the right thing to do. And throughout the week, I've read more and more articles, and basically everything I've read has further bolstered my opinion. I've yet to come across any convincing, fact-based argument that at all challenged what I believe about it. And, I could sit here and I could detail all the reasons why I think Brock Lesnar was the right idea. I could sit here and detail all the reasons why I think that Mark Calloway was right and that it is the right time for him to retire. But there's no point anymore. I could sit here because, I read an awesome article last night, 15 reasons why it was the right time to end the streak. And I'm going to link that up in the description of this video if you want to read it, because it's an excellent article. That actually, I read it last night, and it even informed me of a lot of information that I had no idea that went into The Undertaker and WWE's decision. And so I'm going to link that up if you want to read it. But none of that matters anymore. I could sit here and I could trash the opinions of people who disagree with me. I could detail, the fact that they think all these other people should have been the one to break the streak. And, largely it's stupid. But I'm going to go through the timeline of the debate this week, and then I'm going to reveal why the debate is over. So, Sunday night and Monday, the main argument was, should the streak have ended? And I think that question worked itself out in pretty short order. The question of whether or not the streak should have ended is an obvious one. The answer is yes. The Undertaker's 49 years old, and he can't do it anymore. He barely made it through the match. And anybody who was arguing that the streak, the main argument was, if the Undertaker didn't retire now, if the streak didn't end, should I say, people would be clamoring every year for The Undertaker to come back and keep defending the streak. And anybody trying to argue differently immediately proved themselves wrong, because a significant portion of people who said the streak shouldn't have ended immediately started saying that Sting should have ended the streak next year. So they proved that very point, that if the streak hadn't ended, people would continue clamoring for The Undertaker to come back and keep wrestling every single year. But that ended pretty quickly. Like by the end of the day Monday, maybe midday Tuesday, that question was passé. It was over. The debate was over on that one. And instead, especially into Wednesday, I would say by midday Wednesday, when the Ultimate Warrior news broke, the argument of whether or not the streak should have ended was over. And instead, the argument shifted almost entirely to, was Brock Lesnar the right guy to break the streak? And there's a lot of articles being published, and why it was the right time for The Undertaker to retire is still being answered. That's still being questioned, still being asked. But the major question, the major point of contention now as we go into Friday, April 11th, is, was Brock Lesnar the right person to break the streak? Because people immediately say, "Oh, well, the streak should never have ended," and you can immediately feed them the line that I just said. Then the Undertaker would never have been allowed to retire. People would keep coming back and demanding that he wrestle year after year after year. And that argument is immediately over. And then they go, "Okay, yeah, but Brock Lesnar shouldn't have been the one to break the streak." And that's the point right there. Two things were proven by the end of the day on Monday. I think everybody assumed, and this has been since confirmed, that it was time for The Undertaker to retire. And we knew that Mark Calloway wanted to retire. And so, basically he has WWE over a barrel every single year. Every single year, they sign a new contract for one match at WrestleMania. And by this point, a large amount of the money that comes from WrestleMania comes from people who come to see The Undertaker. And so Undertaker pretty much has WWE over a barrel. And this year, he insisted that this is the last one, guys. I'm not doing the streak anymore. If I'm coming back to wrestle, it's going to be, and you want me to do Brock Lesnar, he's breaking the streak, and we're done. And that's what went down. So the WWE had to make plans, because obviously that's not the end of the world. The WWE, wrestling doesn't end at WrestleMania 30. There's Raw, and it's going to continue on, like they've said, till WrestleMania 50 and further and further. Like, this business is not going to come to an end because The Undertaker lost at WrestleMania. So this was confirmed. The first goal of the match between The Undertaker and Brock Lesnar was that Mark Calloway, The Undertaker, could go retire and leave the limelight, so that he wouldn't have to keep coming back at WrestleMania to defend the streak. So that every year, the question wasn't, who's The Undertaker facing? He could go retire if that's what he ultimately decides to do. And his career's over, because that's pretty much what he wants to do. So goal one, let The Undertaker leave the limelight and retire. Now, somebody had to be in that limelight. And Undertaker's choice was Brock Lesnar, because you can like the guy or you can hate him. But Brock Lesnar is the single longest reigning world heavyweight champion in the history of the UFC. He has the longest single title reign of anybody. Longer than Randy Couture, longer than Cain Velasquez. And Cain Velasquez might very well one day eclipse him if he can hold on to the title for long enough. But Brock Lesnar has the longest single title reign of any champion in the history of UFC right now. That's not just, oh yeah, he has an MMA background and yeah, he was in the UFC. That's a historic accomplishment that will go down in the record books and in the annals of MMA history. That is not just some small thing that should be, flippantly, indifferently disregarded. That's a major accomplishment in a major, one of the most difficult athletic sports, real sports. And that's why Undertaker picked him. But, since his diverticulitis and the disease that basically caused him to gas out and lose to Cain Velasquez, and the disease that caused him to lose in such dramatic fashion to Overeem, basically the reason he retired, is why he's back in the WWE at all. If he hadn't been forced out of UFC, he'd still be fighting, and he'd probably still be defending the title to this day. But, what are you going to do? Shit happens. But the goal after this event was to shift the limelight to Brock Lesnar. Not in the sense of, Brock Lesnar is going to have the new streak. He's going to replace The Undertaker on the marquee. Now, that's not what I mean. Because The Undertaker lost last year at WrestleMania, Triple H. He's not undefeated. He's never going to be undefeated. He lost at WrestleMania 20 to Goldberg. He's not going to have the next streak. But the goal was to get the attention off Undertaker permanently if need be. And regardless of why people have been arguing all week if Brock Lesnar was the right person to defeat The Undertaker and break the streak, it has now been proven that he was. Because 5 whopping days later, The Undertaker is almost completely absent from the conversation. And the question of contention is, was Brock Lesnar the right guy to break the streak? I mean, if you look up articles, you'll find that The Undertaker's name may be in the headline, and the banner for the article may very well be a picture of him. But the article is primarily about Brock Lesnar. All the articles at this point being published are primarily about Brock Lesnar. Well, that proves that it's time to declare mission accomplished. And not in a joking sense, in a serious sense. The mission of Brock Lesnar Undertaker at WrestleMania 30 was to allow The Undertaker to leave the limelight, to get the attention off of him, and to leave the limelight with Brock Lesnar, to get the attention onto him, because he has mainstream appeal. He's an athlete, and he's a damn good athlete. That's why the world is still talking about Brock Lesnar. And I say that he's the right person to do it because the world would not give 2 shits if CM Punk beat The Undertaker. Because he is only a big name inside of WWE. You go outside of WWE, who the fuck is CM Punk? My friend, who is known as Alan Morrissey on Animerica, I told him that Brock Lesnar beat The Undertaker, and his reaction was, "Holy shit! Brock Lesnar's back?" He's never watched WWE a day in his life. Ever. The only thing, when I told him that Brock Lesnar beat The Undertaker, his response was, when I told him that The Undertaker lost, his response was, "I thought you told me The Undertaker never loses at WrestleMania." He's never watched a WrestleMania in his life. He knows literally nothing about wrestling, about WWE pro wrestling, scripted wrestling. We're both wrestlers, like real wrestling, but he knows nothing about it. Never watched any of it a day in his life. But when he said who beat him and I said Brock Lesnar, his reaction was, "Holy shit, Brock Lesnar!" Because Brock Lesnar has mainstream widespread appeal as a legitimate athlete who is an out-and-out badass. Whether you love him or you hate him. Roman Reigns? Wow, you want to talk about CM Punk not having mainstream appeal? Who the fuck is Roman Reigns? Shawn Michaels? I mean, old wrestling fans, nobody knows who the hell he is. The only other person with as much, and I would argue just as much mainstream appeal would be John Cena. But even he, or Daniel Bryan. You go on YouTube and you look up videos of people around the entire world doing yes chants at sporting events that have nothing to do with wrestling. Daniel Bryan, who has massive worldwide appeal, and John Cena, who has massive worldwide appeal, even outside of wrestling. Those two guys are the only other two candidates. Even Daniel Bryan doesn't have the star status to pull this off. And John Cena is never going to happen because it would be too obvious. John Cena always wins. So everybody would go into that event not caring because they figure John Cena is going to win because The Undertaker's 49. The math would be too easy. Brock Lesnar was the only one who could pull off the shock and pull everyone's attention to him. And you could argue hypotheticals. Like you could argue maybe the other two guys could have done it. But in reality, Brock has done it. Mission accomplished. The entire debate is about Brock Lesnar. The Undertaker is a footnote in his own story. Because the main argument is, here's why The Undertaker wanted Brock Lesnar to beat him. The discussion is still about Brock Lesnar. I can tell you why The Undertaker picked Brock Lesnar, but that involves talking about Brock Lesnar's accolades and how great he is. The discussion at this point is all about Brock Lesnar. The Undertaker was not scheduled or shown on Raw. He's been silent since he lost. He has left the conversation intentionally because he wanted to. Objective 1 completed. The entire debate is about Brock Lesnar. Objective 2 completed. And so, we can continue arguing over our own personal opinions about who we think should have beaten the streak and why it was time for The Undertaker to retire and why Brock Lesnar was in a wrestling context was the right person to beat it or the wrong person to beat it. But none of that matters anymore. Because the WWE, Brock Lesnar, and Mark Calloway have accomplished every single thing that they wanted to accomplish by having Brock Lesnar defeat The Undertaker. Everything. It was a perfect, overwhelming success. And so that's why at this point, I say the debate is over. Because no press is bad press. This created a massive controversy, bringing worldwide attention from major news outlets to the WWE and Brock Lesnar. The WWE won. Mark Calloway won, even if The Undertaker lost, and Brock Lesnar won. And so, mission accomplished. And there's no point in talking about it anymore. WWE, they got everything they wanted, and so that's why I say the debate's over. Doesn't matter what we think anymore, because they won, and that's ultimately all they were trying to do in the end. Let a 49-year-old man retire. Let a 36-year-old guy be a badass and make a lot of money for them throughout the year and not just at WrestleMania. And make room for more talent, for a new big story to be built. And, largely I'd say, they didn't care about the fans, but ultimately, I think it's ultimately hard to vilify any of those goals. I don't think there's anything wrong with any of them. I mean, maybe you guys disagree with me, but I think those are all good things to happen. Make room in the card for more new talent. Make Brock Lesnar a badass so that, ultimately he can put someone over huge. Make him an opponent to compete for the title that will ultimately put someone over. because you know he's not going to be the champion for any period of time, for any like long period of time, if he's the champion at all. But yeah, you can use him to put somebody over because holy shit, he's the guy who beat The Undertaker. You know, maybe in like 5 or 6 months, he could come back and challenge Daniel Bryan, takes the title off of him, puts Roman Reigns over, puts Cesaro over, and then that guy, and then, you know, he becomes a transitional champion, and then that guy feuds with Daniel Bryan again. I mean, you have endless possibilities and serious ways you can use Brock Lesnar now, and he's going to put on awesome matches. And there are going to be a lot more people watching WWE now because all sorts of people heard about this. So, for the first time, as much as people want to rage and hate and whatever, for the first time in WWE, we can legitimately, objectively call an angle a win-win-win. So, what's the point in arguing? If you disagree, feel free to post your comments in the space below this video, but it's over, guys. Let's move on.